Baby go. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 320, I am very lucky to have Matthew Jodouin on the podcast. Yes, he is a renowned mindset mentor, a personal development coach, dedicated to helping individuals transform their lives by shifting their mindsets. How are you today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing excellent, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to speak with you and be here today. And I wanted to congratulate you before we jump into the conversation here on 320 episodes.
Hey,
I mean,
it's
that's a pretty
what?
big feat, and I think that puts you well above most people as far as kind of just that consistency and that discipline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like this is the thing. Put it this way: over the let's just say the last 60 months, the discipline, like trying to keep that focus and discipline, has been a little bit more challenging. So yes, let's just say if you see this video all of a sudden cut out, uh, yes, responsibilities on a new level have taken over
It has
this
changed a
show.
little bit on the home front, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. But look, you know this better than I. That like being a father of two yourself, yes, loving husband, father, and like yeah, it's it is a grind. It's just like a grind. A grind in some respects because yes, it comes with an element of work, but yes, a joy and a pleasure. so many new, so many new, varied things come on a daily basis.
Right. Well, it brings with it so many kind of unexpected challenges and things that we can't even really have anticipated. You know what I mean? And like a lot of times, though, I find that those are learning opportunities, not only for our little ones but for ourselves as well. And it's
Yeah.
actually a huge opportunity for growth too, I believe.
No, I do agree with you, and you have done quite a lot of that in your own life because, like, this is the thing. Before you became, like, yes, this renowned coach, you were just, like, I say, just a personal trainer, but, like, yeah, a personal trainer to say the least. What put you, like, what took you from being a personal trainer to where you are today?
Right. You did your homework, did you?
What? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Look, I wasn't trying to disarm you with like yes, like charming conversation about Canada and my like how can I say stereotypes? How you just
That's
like
right.
pumping out.
Yeah, well, it's true though, and I originally got my start in the in the personal training area as
Mm,
a fitness instructor.
yeah,
And like a lot of people, I got into personal training with a passion for fitness and an interest in that lifestyle and that kind of thing. And I found a mentor at a young age who brought me under his wing, kind of thing, so to speak, and shared with me this idea that he was going to teach me everything that I needed to know about being a personal trainer. And I was really lucky to find a mentor like that at the time. And I think that one of the mistakes that a lot of times people make when they get into personal training is that most people have a tendency to focus on like the big muscle groups and things like your quads and your back or your pecs and that sort of thing. And they spend most of their time training those big muscle groups with compound movements like squats and bench press. But I learned pretty quickly that the biggest muscle that we need to train is the one between our ears. And when people would come to me with like a quote unquote problem where they'd say, "Hey, I've got to lose this weight, or I've got to drop 30 pounds, or I need to lose 50 pounds," what I discovered is that actually the weight's not necessarily the problem. The weight's more often than not a symptom of an underlying either mental or emotional issue or matter. And when you start to peel back the layers and you start to address some of the mental and the emotional matters, the weight just has a tendency to melt right off. And so it was back in 2014 where, as a personal trainer, I realized that, hey, I need to be better equipped to support my clients in their weight loss journey. And so I became a certified life coach. And I never actually anticipated or expected to become a full time life coach. I just thought this would be another tool in my toolkit that I could use to help support my clients on their journey. And so it gave me a lot of insight, awareness, and understanding into the importance and the power of our mind when it comes to achieving and accomplishing our goals. Now, the truth is that that can apply to fitness just as much as it can apply to your finances or your career or your relationships or any other matter. And so I went on for a number of years to own and operate my own personal training studio. And I helped clients lose unbelievable amounts of weight and improve their health, their fitness, their mindset, and their relationship, not only with themselves, but also with the people in their lives. Because when you change your mindset and you change your thought patterns, your beliefs about yourself, and how you're showing up in the world, it has a tendency to create this ripple effect and influence just about every other aspect of your life. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. I hear you. Because like this is the thing. Like, if when someone like decides to go, yes, I want to get on this journey of fitness. It's not just one of those things where, yeah, yes, the body is one thing, the mind is the other. And I would say, with regards to, I agree with you. The mind is pretty much everything what it has to deal with. If like you can have, how can I put it? You can have a mindset which is, yeah, lackadaisical or fuzzy, and you will get lackadaisical or fuzzy results in like wherever you want to do in life, either training, getting fitter, or basically, yeah, trying to improve your life in some way. When that sort of getting over that sort of hump, what that mindset block, which has either led you down a path of 1,001 mistakes, year upon year, trying to overcome that. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. They think it's going to happen pretty much in a few weeks, even though
Right.
they've walked a path which is taking them years to get to where they are, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. We see that oftentimes in the fitness industry for sure. People spend 20
Mm.
years putting on weight slowly but surely, and then they expect that, it's going to come off just like that. But to your point there about kind of having fuzzy goals or fuzzy, mindset, one of the phrases that I use often is that vague goals produce vague results. And most people don't have a very clear idea or intention about what it is that they'd like to create or achieve. And because of that, they don't have a real, like, specific destination or a target to aim for. When you ask most people, well, what do you want in life, or what's your goal? People will say things like, wow, I want to lose a little bit of weight, or I want to be happier, or I want to be financially free, or things like that. But those aren't goals. Those are just wants,
Mm.
and everybody wants those kinds of things, don't they? To be a little bit healthier,
Yeah,
lose a couple pounds, earn a little bit more money, just be happier. Pretty common. And one of my
yeah.
mentors says to me all that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, no, please continue. One
Yeah,
of your
one of my
mentors.
mentors says to me all the time. He says that a person without a goal is like a ship without a rudder, and a ship without a rudder is just going to drift aimlessly at sea with no purpose, no plan, no direction, no destination. And eventually, a ship without a rudder that's just drifting around at sea, it's inevitably going to be doing one of two things. It's either going to get lost, tossed around by the waves, or end up wrecked on the rocks. Neither one of those two things are very good, in my opinion. And so I think as humans, as people, we need goals to give us a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, a a plan to follow uh, for our life. And when we start making progress in areas in our life like that, we're oftentimes met with feelings of fulfillment and joy and accomplishment. It's very like rewarding emotions, feeling like we're accomplishing things that are important to us. And then that's the kind of thing too that starts to build momentum, where you feel like you're getting somewhere, that you're doing something that's worthwhile. And that's the kind of thing that you can build upon, as far as kind of some of those positive emotions that contribute to your overall sense of happiness and well-being in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I would say one of the things especially in this day and age, where you are sort of bombarded with, how can I put it, uh, the sort of like false realms of success,
Mm,
like joy, happiness, goal achieving, this, that, the other. I think many a person loses their actual focus because they actually they don't know what they truly want, because they think it's like, yes, I must have this life of riches, fame, fortune, and yet it might be a case of, yeah, you own a small coffee shop on the corner and you say hello to many person each day, but they have no idea where that's meant to be going, you know?
right. Yeah. I find this so fascinating. Like, I have a very unique opportunity to ask people about this kind of stuff on a regular basis. And, I'll meet with people who are in their 40s and 50s and sometimes even their 60s. And I'll ask them, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want to experience out of life? And most people have a very difficult time coming up with an answer for that. And I just think that that's fascinating, because you'd think that by the time you got to be our age, and I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but I just turned 40 myself. But you'd think that by the time you got to this point or this stage of our life, that we'd have a pretty clear idea of what it is that we want. But, there's a line from Mark Twain. Mark Twain, of course, was a famous author from the 1800s, early 1900s, and he once famously said that I can show anybody how to achieve anything that they want. The only problem is I can't find anybody who knows what they want. And I just think that sometimes not a lot has changed. And you're right. I think that sometimes we get caught up in this whole, society, some of the things that society wants us to do, and some of the things that our family expects us to do, and some of the things that we perceive are indicators of success. And we have a tendency sometimes to lose ourselves in that process, don't we?
Uh, I do think, yeah, I think it's a case of you can lose yourself in the process. Uh, it's sometimes I think people are not aware of what the process is because they're so damn distracted with everything what's going on in this world of ours. Like, you think about it this way. Okay, when you were a kid, if you had to watch a TV show,
Mhm.
if you missed it at that point in, you either had to record it on video or you had to wait for the reruns, when that could be, who knows, if you, well, if like in North America, if you were privileged to have like cable TV, like you might be able to catch it on a later run, like a later showing. But generally, when the show came out, you had to be there like it was church, religiously, or you'll miss your opportunity. But now you can have everything. I can like sit down, watch season upon season upon season, like tune up all my spare time, but that's also time where I can be like going, okay, what can I do to work on myself? Like, and this is a number of people which do this. And like, look, I'm just talking about this distraction of television. And like, there is a million and one things out there these days, always clamoring for your like time and attention. And let's not forget about those little dark rectangles we carry around with us every damn day, you know?
Right, 100%. I think back to my childhood and how on Sunday nights we used to gather around and we watch like a Sunday night movie, like Disney or something like that was broadcast on TV.
Mm.
And if you went upstairs or into the other room to go get a drink or a snack, as the program came back on after the commercials ended, we'd all come running back to the room as quick as we can because we didn't want to miss it. And that's, it's a fond memory that I have of being a child. But it's one of those things that my kids have no concept of what a commercial is now. And I mean, between Netflix and online stuff, they're just streaming everything. In fact, I remember one time we had the TV on in the other room, and my son hollered for me. He was about 5 or 6 at the time, and he said, Dad, come here. The TV's doing something weird. It keeps cutting to another channel." And I walk into the other room, and here it hadn't changed channel. It had just gone to a commercial momentarily. And he'd never experienced something like that before, and I just thought that was hilarious. But you're right.
Ah,
We live in an age of distraction these days, where we are bombarded, I think, with information and with noise and notifications, whether it's email or social media or the radio and TV. And one thing that we're trying to incorporate into raising our kids, but it's important for us as adults too, is to create time to like allow boredom to set in, because that's actually a very creative state. And when you allow your mind to wander, that's when you can use your imagination. That's when you can tap into your intuition. And it's actually a very empowering process. But you have to create that these days because, yeah, we've got so many different devices, and it's just so easy to reach for something or turn something on that entertains us for us. And it never really gives us an opportunity to develop that muscle of your imagination or your intuition for that.
see, like you say, boredom in like it sounds so simple, but like this is the thing. I do find it like going, yeah, it's a challenge in itself to find like a realm where you can be bored, if you get what I mean. Because as I said, I refer to the little black rectangles we carried, like the TVs, like music, podcasts. Like, don't take that as an excuse to like tune out of this podcast. But yeah, but yeah, with the vast myriad of things, it's like, yeah, like how, like what would you say to someone to like be able to still their mind? What sort of practices would you tell them to put into place to like go,
Right.
hey, pause?
Yeah. Here's that's a great question. And, one of the first things that I would say is that you don't often just find the time to do those types of things. It comes down to it's a matter of making the time to do those sorts of things. And one of the
Mm,
best tools that I've used recently is just utilizing my calendar to schedule things that are important to me. And the truth is that most people have a tendency to prioritize things that are in their calendar, like doctor's appointments or meetings and things like this. But one of the things that I encourage people to do and that I really try to do is to schedule my priorities, which is a little bit of a different concept
mm,
if you hear what I'm saying here. And it's by identifying the things that are important to me in my priorities. So things like walks in nature, things like my workouts, things like my meditations, even just something as simple as going down to the beach. I live near the ocean here, and I find it's extremely therapeutic to just go and spend 20, 30 minutes down by the water watching the waves roll in and crash upon the shore and that sort of thing. And most people wait until they have a few extra minutes to do something like that rather than putting those important things in their calendar and then scheduling everything else around that. And so I think that to answer your question there, learning to identify some of those habits or those activities are probably step number one, and then scheduling them and making it a priority and using like time blocking in your calendar uh, to work around some of those things and ensure that they happen. You know what I mean? It's been hugely beneficial for me. And I find that a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that I work with who are business professionals, who are CEOs, who work in the corporate world, you know, they'll allow other people to control their schedule and their calendar. And before you know it, they're just working all the time. And there is no kind of like space for them to just let their mind wander, to dream, or do any of those sorts of things. And they're bombarded with information and distractions all day long. And the truth is that the brain actually needs time to process the things that we're learning and to integrate that. Otherwise, it's not as useful as it could be.
Oh, I no, I hear that. I hear that. And like this is the thing with find that space to like yes let a thought an idea grow, giving it space like through the sort of foliage of everything what goes on in one's life is difficult, but like yeah, but this is the thing trying to like figure out what that sort of realm of uh purpose, guidance, growth could be like with like you say you've talked to many a person about yeah like sort of key decisions in their lives and everything like this. Have you found there has been one or sort of two common threads where people are like going yeah, this has been one of the things I need to work on, or this is where I'm like going wrong, or this is why I'm scared, or is it just different for everyone?
Um, yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think it varies from person to person. But I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, that I think that we sometimes have this tendency to, I don't know, kind of get caught up in what people or society expects us to do, as kind of following along this formula for happiness. One of the things that I talk about oftentimes is how, whether consciously or unconsciously, we're oftentimes led to believe that the path to happiness looks something like, well, go to school, get a good job, get good grades, graduate, get a good job, get married, have a family, become successful, and then once you become successful, well, then you'll be happy, kind of thing. That's kind of like the story that we're sold. Would you agree? Yeah.
It's the standard playbook, if
Yeah,
you
it's
get
the
what I mean.
standard playbook, right. And I think that what happens oftentimes, and I've experienced this personally, and a lot of the work that I do with clients too, they've shared similar sentiments where it's like they followed the playbook, they've checked all the boxes, they've gotten to the point where on
Mm.
paper they look like they're winning, but there's still a part of them that feels unsatisfied or like unfulfilled, or like there's got to be something more to this thing called life. And they're searching for, like, well, what is it that's really going to fulfill me? And I think that what happens is we've the problem, or the trap that we fall into oftentimes, is that we're looking for something on the outside, whether it's the money, the house, the cars, or the family, or whatever like that, to fill something inside. And as cliche as it sounds, it's like it's a matter of returning home and going within to do some work on yourself and discovering, like, who you are, and asking yourself some very, very deep and profound questions, like, who am I, and what do I want, and why am I here? And sometimes those questions can really throw people
Yeah.
for a loop.
Yeah, I think it's a case of people are always happy to ask the lovely questions, the happy questions, the nice questions.
Right,
But like when it comes to like, okay, some of the ugly questions, the truth, if you get what I mean,
right,
which is hard uh, to deal with, at times. So getting off that and going, yeah, what is my truth? What
right.
is like with that sort of truth, you can really sort of find out, well, get an idea of who you are and where you might be heading, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I think those are the hard questions, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth in there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for self discovery, and actually a lot of opportunity to develop like a sense of peace and peace of mind and fulfillment, and maybe even joy. But I think that it kind of,
Mm,
when we it's difficult to do sometimes in today's day and age where we have so many demands on our time. And to your point, when we've got jobs and we've got families and we've got young kids, like nobody's got time to sit on the top of a mountain and just meditate all day and like wonder about what their purpose is in life. So I see kind of a little bit of that, conflict there where it's like, well, how am I supposed to do something like that? But I'm really fortunate because my wife is super supportive, and we try to support each other,
mm.
together. And I encourage her to do the things that fill her tank. Like she's a big basketball player. She's a great soccer player. She gets a lot of joy and fulfillment from competition and from being physically active and things like that. And I encourage her to do those things and try to cover for her at home when she's away. But she returns the favor and then allows me or encourages me to take time away to, kind of have that alone time to decompress or to ask myself those questions or spend some time getting to know myself a little bit. And I think that if you have that opportunity, or if you create that opportunity, it can be a really positive one. But I realize that not everybody maybe has the freedom to do that, or the circumstances where they're able to spend time doing that. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you. It makes me feel like brings up curiosity on my side. Like, yeah, what would you say? Like, basically, was one of your sort of biggest lessons learned from basically going from being a personal trainer to basically, well, let's go up to present day because I'm not going to try boxing you in just as a coach, but yeah, what would
Yeah.
you say has been?
One of the biggest lessons that I've learned, is that what you're asking? One of the biggest lessons that I've learned?
Mm,
Well,
yeah, or the most influential lessons?
yeah. Um, I think that one of the biggest things that I've really learned over the last couple of years is just to what extent our programming from a young age, specifically our subconscious programming and our emotions, have a tendency to control our actions or our behavior. And what I mean by that is like most people think that they're pretty logical creatures. Most people think that they make their own decisions and that they behave in such a way that they've thought about in advance. Okay. But the truth is that psychology tells us that the mind consists of two parts. We have our conscious mind and we have our subconscious mind. Okay. But our conscious mind is known as our thinking mind or our logical mind. And our subconscious mind, on the other hand, is known as our emotional mind, okay, or our feeling mind. And when psychologists study this, they've
Yeah,
determined that our conscious thinking mind only accounts for about 5% of what we do. Okay. And that the vast majority of our actions and our behaviors are the result of our subconscious mind. And the truth is that, like, that's kind of scary when you think about it, isn't it?
like it is and it isn't because like this is the thing you kind of like go okay humans like okay depending who you speak to like human beings have been around for a couple of 100,000 years to 700,000 years
Right.
like
Sure.
the world for the most part for the longest time didn't really change. Like if you sort of let, let's go with let's just go with the 20th century to present day. In the 20th century, we learned like we discovered flight.
Right.
Also in the 20th century, we discovered the atomic bomb.
Right.
And yeah, the internet. That sliver of time, the world has changed so extremely. And if you like, some people will go, I do not believe in evolution. But if you do believe in evolution, it's a slow process. But society has gone on simple rocket fuel. Like if you just look at the last 70 years, 80 years to what it is today. Like, look, it's mind-boggling when you look at it. You go, wow, 100 years ago couldn't fly, but in that space of time, we went from flying to like commercial jets to going faster than the speed of sound to going to the moon, atomic, and it is mad. So
Right.
I can like, yeah, human mind, human brain. I can strongly believe that because it we haven't like the world has changed so quickly, but we're still the same animal. If you get what I mean, you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. Technology has changed so much and the world around us has changed so much. And as human beings, our brain or our minds haven't quite had the opportunity, like you said, to evolve to keep up with that. And we're left with a hardware system and a software system that's still kind of, to a certain extent, living in the Stone Age almost. You know, and I mean, we're capable
Mm,
of creating and thinking of and dreaming of all sorts of unbelievable things, everything from like you said, manned flight to space exploration to things of that nature. But the average person, what happens is most of our decisions and most of our actions are actually, not what's the word I'm thinking of, like premeditated. Most of our behavior is actually the result of
mm,
our emotions. Truth is, we're emotional beings. We act about 95 to 98% of our actions are based on habit and emotion. And then after the fact, we come in and we rationalize it with logic, or we justify it with reason. But one of the to answer your question there, one of the biggest discoveries or things that I've learned, lessons I've learned in the last number of years, is that to a large extent, I'm the product of my environment, the activities that I was exposed to as a young kid, some of the things that people have said to me and about me, that all became a part of my subconscious programming that have then gone on to perpetuate beliefs about myself, about the world, about the way that I think things should be. And they all inform my habits and my actions. And I think that most people are unaware of just how much their environment and some of their habits and some of the experiences that they've been exposed to have shaped the actions that they take, and also who they've become in that process. And most people get to a point in life where sometimes they'll look around and they'll say to themselves, well, how did I get here? And what am I doing? And how do I get out of here? Kind of thing. And the what I try to help people do is to consciously create themselves, or get to a point where they're able to recognize the fact that, hey, I didn't get here by myself. I got here with the help and support of my people in my environment and some of the activities that I participate in. But I always say, if you're not consciously creating yourself, likely you're unconsciously creating yourself. And if I had a choice between consciously doing something or unconsciously doing something, I'd much prefer to do it consciously with a specific aim or purpose and the intention of getting a specific outcome. And so part of what I do is I help people
mm.
understand that that's the power of our mind, that we have the ability to envision a future that's greater than our current reality, and grow into the type of person that we want to be in order to create and experience something new or something different around us. And it's actually a very empowering practice because, otherwise we're kind of left like that ship out at sea, just kind of getting tossed around by the waves. But the minute you take back ownership, you take back control of your life, and you say, hey, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, this is who I want to be, and this is what I want to achieve. It's a very empowering act that really, you know, gives people a sense of self control again. So I see a lot of value in something like that.
I see, I see. Like it must be one of those things, huh? Wow. Like trying to, like you mentioned habits and like sort of the like tearing down old habits and building new ones. It must
Right,
be a challenge and a half in many respects, especially well, like some habits have been either beneficial to some people in some regards, or they see it as beneficial, but it
right,
might be quite self-destructive
right.
for the most part, you know?
Right. Yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right. And like that's the really interesting thing is that, even negative habits that we have, or even ones that, are destructive in some level, maybe at some point they served us,
Mm,
and I look back in my youth, and I have a pretty long history with drugs and alcohol. And if I think about it, like I realize that, at one point in time, that habit served me in the sense that I had like an automatic peer group. And we'd get together and we had this in common, and I was invited to parties, and all of a sudden I was a popular kid and that sort of thing. And it worked for me for a while to my benefit until all of a sudden, or slowly but surely, it didn't anymore. And what happened is it became destructive, and I got into a bit of a cycle of addiction and that kind of thing. And ultimately, it became very problematic. And I ended up having to seek treatment and going through a 12-step program that allowed me to break that habit, which I'm forever grateful for the people who supported me in that journey, because that has been a huge blessing for me. But you're right, those habits, man. Sometimes we pick them up along the way because they're helpful and they serve us to a certain extent. But over time, maybe the circumstance changes or the habit becomes something that it wasn't before. And by that time, it's almost, too deeply entrenched to just change on its own. And so, what do they say? That old habits die hard, And if you're at all interested, there's a book called Atomic Habits by a man named James Clear, and I'm not sure if you've read it before, but it's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. I reference it all the time, and he talks about, anytime that you want to make a change in your habits, one of the most important things is just to start like super small. And, kind of what you're saying there about weight loss, that sometimes people will start a weight loss journey and they'll expect things to happen really quickly. And so, what they'll do typically, in my experiences, I've seen this often, is that they'll commit to making big changes. And so, they'll try to, overhaul their whole lifestyle. And I'm going to start a diet. I'm going to exercise 5 days a week. I'm going to do yoga and I'm going to meditate. And then what happens is like they've changed so much that a couple of weeks goes by and one of two things happen. Either hurt themselves in the gym because they've taken on too much too soon, or they become kind of disappointed with the fact that their results don't mirror the effort they're putting in. They're working really hard, but the results are kind of slow at first. And so they get discouraged and they give up. And one of the things that James Clear talks about is this importance of like, establishing the habit first before you optimize it. And so just starting with something super small and what he calls the 2-minute rule. And at first, you should just exercise for like 2 minutes a day. And most people say, well, what's that going to do? But what you're doing is you're establishing that habit, and you're identifying as somebody who exercises every day, even if it's only for 2 minutes. And over time, that compounds. And then you can begin to, well, maybe it's 5 minutes, and then it's 20 minutes, and so on and so forth, until now you've got a track record of being somebody who shows up every day and exercises regardless of how they feel, because that's just who they are. And that's where real transformation occurs, is by establishing that track record, being able to identify with the activity that's desired, or the habit that's desired. But that's how you create change that lasts, because most people have a tendency to try something, they don't stick with it long enough to see the results, or they self-sabotage and ensure that the habit never sticks. And that's partly why I was so impressed with the fact
Mm.
that you have 320 episodes under your belt, because it shows a degree of consistency, discipline, determination, and the fact that you made a decision and now you're moving forward with it no matter what.
Ah, thank you, sir. Most kind. Thank you very much. But like, this is the thing. I think I I forget this myself. It's the small moves, the small wins in life, what bring the greatest success. And like the reason why I forget it at times is because, yeah, I can't help but like, I want to do the hop, skip, and the jump to get to that next level, but there is like, yes, I've got to remember each small move brings me that little bit closer to where I want to be. And with regards to doing podcasts, like, right, you've done 320 episodes. Thank you. But it's a case of, yeah, what people don't realize, a conversation is a craft, a conversation is a skill. And if you just assume that, oh, I can just get down, sit down, and talk, and it will flow quite nicely. I have witnessed many a podcast, like when I've been researching people, where wow, it looks painful. That's what I've got to say. It looks very painful. Yes, I can. Okay, thank you for the opportunity for being here. But you're like,
Right.
yeah,
How much
can we
longer do we
move
have
this
here?
on? It's like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but but people like, I can talk. It's easy. It's not easy. Anything worth doing, anything which is going to be significant change in your life for the positive, doesn't come easy. It takes 1,001 little victories, little wins on a day to day basis to get you the overall victory, that whatever that marker of success is, from what I've seen. I could be totally wrong, and someone can, like, yeah, give me some real interesting scientific paper. I'll hold my hands up. But from what I've seen, observing it, that's the thing. Many little like wins, many little victories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I totally agree with you. And here's the thing: is I often say that success is an uphill journey, and that all of the things that are worth having are uphill. And a lot of times people have a tendency to kind of
Mm,
take the path of least resistance. But the path of least resistance, if you're thinking about like water or rivers, the path of least resistance, it always leads to low places. And I mean mentally and emotionally, but also the rewards too. They're not there. The success and the rewards, it's always an uphill journey. To your point there, I think you're absolutely spot on.
mm,
And one of the things, I was just talking with a client about this yesterday, and I was talking about the importance of developing what I call a success consciousness. Okay. And one of the things that we talked about is that success, it's not just like a one time event. The success is a compound effect of a
mhm,
whole bunch of those little things that add up over time. And like you're saying there, like success is a habit. Okay, it's how you're showing up on a day-to-day basis, and winning is a habit. And what I was encouraging him to do was we're together. We're going to start to create this winning consciousness or this winning mindset, where I always say, big or small, we count them all. And you got to count all of those little wins throughout the
Mm,
day, like having some lemon water in the morning, or whether it's taking your vitamins or your green drink, or doing a workout, or writing out your goal with pen and paper. It's like all of those things. Flossing your teeth, it's like all of those things. That's a win. It's that check mark, check mark, check mark. I'm winning. And what that does is it starts to develop your confidence. It starts to develop this winning mindset, and it creates momentum. And you start to stack those little wins, and day after day after day after day, you just keep building on them. And then ultimately, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months, more often than not it's probably years before you finally achieve that ultimate success,
mm.
or that success that you're looking for. But that's how you do it, is by compounding and stacking those little wins on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I love what you said there. It's the compound effect of stacking all those little wins every single day. You're absolutely right.
Ah, oh, I'm glad to hear I'm right with one thing today. So wrong so many other times. But yeah, but like with regards to yourself and with regards to your like journey, like where would you like this to take you over the next few years? Like let's say the next 2, maybe 3 years. Where would you like to be?
Yeah, well, that's something that I think about often, to be honest with you. And where I see myself and where I'd like to be is speaking on a stage to a group or a live audience. And I do a lot of one-on-one training. I also do small teams and that sort of thing. And so I spend a lot of time in front of my computer speaking to teams on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and things like that. But ideally, what I'd like to do is get more
Yeah.
involved in public speaking. And sometimes people call it like motivational speaking, but I think more just public speaking, and sharing my message and sharing some of my tools and sharing my story with people in a live stage and a bigger audience. And so, to your point there, I see speaking and coaching as a skill. And how do you improve at that? Well, I mean, there's training for sure, but with repetition, and they say that repetition is the mother of all learning. And so right now I'm taking every opportunity that I can to speak with people like yourself, or doing presentations and group teachings and things like that, to practice my skill and to hone my skills as a speaker, as a presenter, and as a coach. In the next 2 years, I have it written on my wall. I've got what I call a mind map. And it's essentially an opportunity for me to organize my thoughts, my dreams, and my goals into kind of short term, medium term, and long term goals. And next up on my mind map is to do a presentation on a live stage in front of a large audience. And so it's something that I spend time every day visualizing, feeling, and here I am speaking it into
Yeah.
existence, because one day I am confident that it will happen. It's a matter of being consistent, showing up, doing the work, and putting myself on the path where those kinds of things can occur.
Mm. What would you consider a large audience?
Uh, uh, Well, in my mind, I see it as as a room with 250 to 500 people. That to me is a large audience. Maybe that's a relative term depending on the person that you're speaking to. Right now I speak to groups of 20 or 25 regularly, and that's not as intimidating as it once was. But I could see, a room full of 250 or 500 people being another level up. Yeah.
No, the reason why I ask it's like it's a little bit me teasing, but it's a case of like, yeah, um, with regards to like, yeah, speaking to one person to speaking to like, yeah, 10,000 people. Yeah, yeah. Apart from the sort of intimidation factor, like yeah, it's still like yeah, building that connection. If you can build that connection to one, and you can build that connection to 10,000 or beyond, and make that happen, it's just yeah. There's that psychological like block, which look, trust me, I would have it as well. Just like step out on stage, just like ah,
Right,
there's a lot of you, and there's one of me. It's like,
right,
let's not forget what's my name right now? Who am I
right,
right now? But yeah, but you see, you're getting out in front of 250 people, which is great, which is fantastic. Uh, Public speaking is like, well, many people's greatest fear because you know what I mean. You're out
right.
there exposed by yourself more times than and when you're called upon doing public speaking, like more times than not, it's not for a positive thing, if you get what I mean.
Maybe, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but this is the thing, yeah, you're making the right steps. So apart from public speaking, like, do you have a book in mind? Like, do you have more than one book in mind? Because you've done a small book, haven't you, already?
Right. Yeah, I've done a couple of works. I've actually created a workbook that I use to supplement the coaching that I do, and it's called Unstuck: How to Get Out of a Rut and Start Crushing Life.
Yes.
And I use this as a helping people or providing a roadmap for how to get people, kind of who might be feeling like they're stuck in a rut, or feeling like they're a little bit stagnant or on the hamster wheel of life, where maybe they're working really hard but not going anywhere real fast, and it provides some real tangible tools, as well as some really powerful teachings that have been super helpful for me. Um, and then I've also been a co-author of a book called Conversations Over Coffee. And in that book, it's a published book, paperback copy that it's available on Amazon and that sort of thing. But there I go into detail and I share a little bit more about my story and about some of the lessons that I've learned as a personal trainer, but also as a mindset coach, and where those collide. And then I've also developed an ebook that's available online, and it's called the Success Blueprint. And again, what it does is it breaks down a process for helping people kind of ask themselves some of those questions, like, what does success mean to me? And the interesting thing about that is, we're kind of sold this idea of what success is, and normally people think of it in terms of career or finances, but different things, different, success will mean different things to different people, and it allows people an opportunity to kind of ask themselves some of those questions, and then it creates a framework for starting to build a life around that. And I call it the success blueprint because if you think about it, like, you know, uh, anything that was first created in our physical, or anything that was created in our physical world, like the desk that you're sitting at or the house that you live in, okay, it was first created in somebody's mind using their imagination. They saw it as a vision or an image in their mind. But then what they did is they likely drew it out on
Mm,
paper and created like a blueprint, right? I mean, it certainly works for our house. It certainly works for so many of the different things that we see in our physical world, whether that's the vehicles we drive, our cars, and stuff like that. But most people never think, well, why don't I do something like that with my life as well and create a blueprint and a plan to help me develop and grow and become and create what it is that I want to create. So that was my other project, was
mm.
Success Blueprint.
Interesting. So have to ask, This will sort of be one of my final questions. What does success look like to you?
Yeah, you know what? um, I'm living it, man. And what I mean by that is that, oh, try not to get choked up here, but I think for me, success is the joy and the excitement that I see in my family's eyes when I walk in the front door, knowing that I'm making a positive impact and contribution to the lives of other people, serving people and helping people, and learning to love myself, to be content with who I am and where I am, and being grateful for the lessons that I learned, including the challenges that I had to go through to get to where I am today, and just practicing being more present, more grateful, and living with service in my heart. And it took me a long time to get here, but I feel in my heart of hearts that that's success to me, and I get an opportunity to do that every day. But not a day goes by that I take that for granted because um, life exists on a polarity. And there's the law of polarity, which states that for every up, there's a down. And for every inside, there's an outside, and for there's a hot, there's a cold. And I really believe that, well, to really truly experience the light, you have to have some understanding of the dark. And I've
Mm,
experienced some pretty dark places and gone to some pretty dark places here. And I think that that allows me to really fully appreciate the good that I have in my life today. And I'm grateful for where I've been, what I've learned, and the people that I get to share my journey with today.
yeah. You say there's a polarity, but there is an equilibrium. And I think with regards to where your journey is most already taking you throughout your life, I think you found more of that equilibrium than like, yes, one or the other. So like, yeah, your hard work, your dedication, and yeah, your growth as a person from where you've come from to where you are today is a testament to your journey, sir. And I think you should be really proud of that, you know?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the encouragement. And I also appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak with you today. And it's something I was looking forward to. And so I want to say I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You're most kind. Like Matthew, I've got to say thank you for coming on to the show today. You have been a delight, a pleasure. Can you tell the lovely people how they can find you out on these interwebs?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably most active on social media platforms like Facebook. My name is Matthew Jacob Jodouin. And then on Instagram, it's matt.jodouin. My last name is spelled Jodouin. It's always a tricky one for a lot of people to spell, but also to pronounce. And then my website too is mjmindsetcoach.com. And I've got lots of information on there. I regularly host free workshops and webinars and things like that where I invite people to join me for an experience, to share, to connect, to create. And they're always free. So I always encourage people, all you have to do is sign up and show up. And yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Perfect. I'll put all of the information, oh, excuse me, I'll put all the information into the show notes. So, yes, you can find Matthew's details and all the information nice and simple and easy for you guys out there. Yes. Once again, Matthew, thank you for coming on today. a pleasure, a joy, much happiness, love, and all of that. And yeah, I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us to the end of the show. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a great one, guys. Have a great one. Peace.